Welcome back to Coinage Era. Today, we uncover the royal story of a coin that marked the end of an era, a coin that witnessed the transformation of a nation, the rise of a young queen, and the closing pages of Britain's ancient currency system. This is the story of the 1966 Two Shillings coin, also known as the Florin, a shining emblem of unity, heritage, and the unstoppable march of time. The year was 1966, a period of great change and optimism in the United Kingdom. The war-torn decades were behind, and Britain was stepping confidently into the modern world. Cities were rebuilding, industries were booming, and a new cultural revolution was reshaping the identity of the nation. At the heart of this transformation stood Queen Elizabeth II, young, radiant, and full of hope. Having ascended to the throne in 1952, her reign symbolized continuity and renewal, the blending of ancient tradition with a modern spirit. And as Britain changed, so did its money. Each coin, from the smallest penny to the Grand Crown, carried the royal portrait, a silent witness to the daily life of millions. Among them was the Two Shillings coin, a simple yet powerful reminder of the empire's legacy. To understand the 1966 Florin, we must go back over a century earlier to 1849, when the Florin was first introduced under Queen Victoria. It was a bold experiment, Britain's first step toward decimalization. The Florin, valued at 2 shillings, was exactly 1/10 of a pound, designed as a test for a simpler currency system. For decades, it coexisted with the old pounds, shillings, and pence, an echo of the empire's desire for progress without losing its traditions. By the time Queen Elizabeth II inherited the throne, the Florin had already become a familiar and respected coin, one that carried not just economic value, but cultural weight. The 1966 edition was among the last to be minted for circulation before the Great Change of 1971, when Britain would finally say goodbye to the old, pre-decimal system forever. On the obverse of the 1966 Florin shines the youthful portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Mary Gillick, an image of timeless grace. Unlike later portraits where she wears a crown, this early depiction shows her bareheaded, adorned only by a simple laurel wreath, a symbol of peace, victory, and purity. This choice was not accidental. Mary Gillick's portrait captured the spirit of a new era, Queen stepping forward into a changing world, ruling not through fear or power, but through dignity and connection. Every coin struck with this portrait carried a silent message: the monarchy endures, but it evolves. Turn the coin over and the story deepens. The reverse side, designed by Edgar Fuller and Cecil Thomas, is a masterpiece of national symbolism. At the center lies the Tudor rose, representing England, proud, ancient, and resilient. Around it bloom the thistle of Scotland, the shamrock of Ireland, and the leek of Wales, each a tribute to the four nations that form the United Kingdom. Together, these symbols tell a story of unity and diversity. They reflect a kingdom that had survived wars, revolutions, and centuries of change, yet still stood strong under one crown. Around the edge reads the inscription, Fid. Def. 2 Shillings, 1966, short for Fidei Defensor, Defender of the Faith, one of the Queen's ancient and sacred titles. This design, though small, carried a monumental message that the monarchy, the faith, and the unity of the British Isles were eternal. The metal of change, cupronickel, and modernization. Earlier versions of the Florin had been struck in sterling silver, shining, proof of Britain's wealth and power. But as the 20th century progressed, silver was replaced with cupronickel, a modern alloy of copper and nickel. The 1966 Florin weighed 11.31 grams and measured 28.5 millimeters across, with a milled edge, a texture that helped prevent forgery. This shift from precious to practical metals wasn't just economic. It was symbolic. It represented a changing Britain, one moving away from the grandeur of empire toward an era of equality, efficiency, and modernity. The coin, like the nation, had evolved. Britain before decimalization. Before 1971, Britain's currency system was one of the most complex in the world. There were 12 pence in a shilling and 20 shillings in a pound, making 240 pence in total. People used farthings, florins, crowns, and halfpennies in daily life. It was a system deeply tied to history, a system that had survived the Norman Conquest, the Industrial Revolution, and 2 world wars. But by the 1960s, it was becoming outdated. The world was moving towards simpler decimal systems, and Britain, too, had to adapt. Thus, the 1966 Florin became one of the final reminders of old money, a farewell to a complex but beloved monetary tradition. The end of an era. Just 5 years later, in 1971, Britain officially switched to the decimal system. The pound was now divided into 100 new pence, and the old coins, shillings, florins, crowns, slowly disappeared from circulation. But the 2 shillings coin left a lasting impression. Its design, beauty, and symbolism made it one of the most cherished relics of the pre-decimal world. Collectors today treasure the 1966 florin not just for its metal, but for its meaning. It is a coin that captures the very moment when tradition met progress, when Britain stood between its royal past and its modern destiny. Throughout her reign, Queen Elizabeth II oversaw one of the most dramatic transformations in British coinage. Her portrait appeared on every denomination, adapting subtly over the years from the youthful Gillick portrait to the mature designs of Arnold Machen, Raphael Makhlouf, and Ian Rank Broadley. The 1966 florin belongs to the first chapter of that long journey. It's the face of a queen stepping into history, and a face that millions of citizens held in their hands every single day. Each coin from that era tells its own story, but the 1966 issue stands apart as a turning point, the last whisper of the old empire's coinage before a new monetary age began. Collectors' value and legacy. In today's market, the 1966 2 shillings coin may not be rare, but it is deeply symbolic. In circulated condition, it may be worth only a few dollars, perhaps $1 to $3, but in uncirculated or proof condition, collectors can pay $15 to $30 or more. Yet its true value isn't measured in money. It's measured in meaning, in its place within British history, and the emotional connection it carries to an era of elegance, pride, and transformation. Many collectors consider the 1966 florin a transitional relic, a coin that connects the Victorian origins of the florin to the modern decimal system of today. A royal reflection. The 1966 2 shillings coin is more than just an artifact. It's a storyteller. It speaks of a Britain standing tall between 2 centuries, of a queen guiding her people through tradition into tomorrow, of a nation proud of its past yet ready for change. When you hold this coin, you hold the echo of millions of lives, people who used it to buy bread, pay fares, and build dreams. You hold the artistry of engravers, the faith of a monarchy, and the resilience of a nation that has never lost its identity. It's a coin that doesn't just shine with metal, it shines with memory. The final words. The 1966 2 shillings coin is a masterpiece of symbolism and history. It marked the last decade of pre-decimal Britain, an era that balanced royal legacy with modern progress. It represents the closing lines of an old book and the opening page of a new chapter, the chapter of a modern Britain under a timeless queen. So whenever you see a 1966 florin, remember this. It's not just currency. It's the story of a queen, a kingdom, and a changing world. And that's why this coin, simple yet powerful, will forever remain one of the most meaningful pieces in the world of numismatics.